Couple housekeeping items before we begin our presentation. Please keep yourself muted. There will be a Q&A at the end. So I would ask just to hold your questions till the end. And now I'll pass it on to our COO, Graciela Noriega Jacoby, and she will be introducing our topic for today. So Graciela, off to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Now I'm going to ask you to be ready for the chat because I've got a couple little pop questions for you. But wanted to first introduce myself. Again, I'm Graciela Noriega Jacoby. I'm the Chief Operating Officer here at Heart of Florida United Way. And I am so happy that you all took some time out on a Friday morning of a long weekend to join us. I think you will find this information not only worthwhile just by way of knowing more about Heart of Florida United Way and a couple of the programs that we offer to the community, but also it's extremely beneficial for your constituents. So as you are interacting with your constituents, as you are drafting your newsletters and preparing for town hall meetings, we hope that this information and this resource will be something that you'll find quite beneficial to share with your constituents. So I'm sure many of you know Heart of Florida United Way. One of the largest programs that we offer here with Heart of Florida United Way is our 211 crisis line. It's an information and referral crisis line. And we also run the 988 suicide prevention hotline. We're one of about a dozen call centers across the nation that take those calls, literally life-saving calls. We also have programs like Destination Graduation and Help Me Grow, perhaps some programs you're not familiar with. So I would offer to you, if you want to know more about our programs and how to get more involved in the work that we do, we have monthly meet and greets. One is coming up on February 20th. I would invite you all to come to that. And we will follow up with the details of that for those of you that might be able to make it. So just that was a little very, very quick snapshot of some of the work that we do. I'd love to ask you a question. Some of you might know the answer to the question. Some of you, it may be a guess, but I'd like for you to put in the chat, how many Central Floridians Heart of Florida United Way touched last year that we assisted, that we supported? Put a number in the chat. How many Central Floridians do you think Heart of Florida United Way benefited last year? $10,000? Got one guess? Good morning, Representative. Any other guesses? And if you know it, put it in there. 20,000, 12,000. All right, I'm going to reveal to you, it was over 700,000. Over 700,000 Central Floridians, Heart of Florida United Way was able to impact, whether it was through our 211 call center, whether it was through our many programs, our investments. And just to add on the awe factor, the shock factor, we had about $50 million of impact in this community when it comes to human and social services. So we do a lot of things in a lot of different ways that there's no way that I can encapsulate it in the couple minutes I have for my introduction. So again, I would welcome you to come to our meet and greet on February 20th to learn more about those details. Now, the really important thing that we do about our work is really who we do the work for. And it's a population that we call ALICE. Many of you may be familiar with this acronym. It's asset limited, income constrained, yet employed. These are folks that are working 1, 2, sometimes 3 jobs just to make the ends meet. And they're one paycheck away from absolute financial crisis. And these are a targeted population that we focus on because we know that that instability in that moment in time, we can jump in and we can stabilize those families, those households. You might be surprised to know that more than 50%, according to Forbes, more than 50% of the population in the United States does not have $400 saved for an emergency. And that's where Heart of Florida United Way and our partner agencies come in. And you know Alice, they're no strangers. You know Alice. You might have Alice in your family. You may have been Alice at one point in your life. These are folks that work hourly jobs for the most part. Again, their income, their wages are constrained, and they have limited assets to be able to leverage during those times of crisis. So as we get into our program, I wanted to share one more thing about me. I was formerly, my career has been in the public sector, in public service for, I hate to say it, a couple decades now. But I had worked for Orange County government for over 18 years. And I know how important it is for you to serve your constituents and find ways to be able to support those in your community. And we hope that today we'll put a couple more things in your war chest as you're out there doing the good work on behalf of our community. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and introduce one of our speakers, Tian. Tian Holmes is our financial stability manager she manages our Bank On program as well as working with our VITA program. So I wanted to go ahead and turn that over to Tian, and we'll have a few other speakers, including Mia. And I think I might have had that reversed. Mia is responsible for our Bank On program. Tian is responsible for our VITA program. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Tian. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us this morning.
No worries. Thank you so much, Graciela. Thank you also for providing that high-level overview of Alice for our elected officials. As Graciela mentioned, my name is Tian Holmes, and I am the Financial Stability Initiatives Manager overseeing the VITA program, which is Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program. So in order to really kind of show you all today how this program impacts your constituents, I'm going to talk to you about VITA through our sample taxpayer. His name is Dave, and his family. You're essentially going to join us as we walk in his shoes down two paths in regarding filing taxes with and without the VITA program, just so that you can kind of gauge and see how everyday citizens are faced with making difficult decisions regarding taxes and financial stability. But before we get too far into the program, there are a few main takeaways that we'd like for you to leave the presentation being informed of. Mainly what the Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program is, so that you can support your residents filing their taxes for free, what our Bank On program is to help our underbanked and unbanked neighbors, how to also share these resources with your constituents, and last but not least, how to find the next Dave in your community. So here we have Dave. Dave is 42 years old. He was recently put on disability due to sustaining a back injury on the job, and he's forced into early retirement. He's slated to start receiving a small monthly disability check, but he's not received it yet, and this has forced his normal stay-at-home wife to pick up a part-time job. So between Dave's disability and his wife's part-time job, their monthly income is only $1,600. They have newfound medical bills, they have 3 children, and they have their regular fixed expenses like rent and a car payment still looming. Dave, unfortunately, is forced to contact local community partners to find assistance with housing and food. Upon his search, he learns about, Heart of Florida's 211 information and crisis line. And so he reaches out for resources for childcare and utility assistance. While on the phone with 211, Dave was actually able to learn about the VITA program, where he learns that he can actually get his taxes prepared for free instead of paying the $400 that he's been accustomed to paying per year. So that's kind of setting the stage for Dave. Now that we know a little bit about him, let's talk about what he learned when he called 211, what they told him. So the VITA program is a grant initiative, is an IRS grant initiative designed to support free tax prep services for the underserved through various partner organizations. This service is actually for low to moderate income individuals or families, persons with disabilities, the elderly, limited English speakers, those types of individuals file their taxes each year. We do have 13 sites in the Tri-County area, from the RG Community Center in Osceola to the Sharing Center in Seminole County to even Boone High School in Orange County. Our sites are actually prepared to provide virtual and in-person tax preparation. So if you've never heard of virtual tax preparation, What this consists of is a client dropping off and scanning their income documentation, scanning in their identification, and then they leave. And then a certified volunteer then prepares the return without the client present. So, and as far as eligibility goes, all these clients have to make a combined income, a household income of $73,000 or less. So that's dual income if you're married, as a household, as an individual. If you are a self-employed individual, all you have to make is $73,000 or less to be eligible to go to one of our VITA sites. So this is a great site, great opportunity for migrant workers, self-employed workers, individuals that only have one W-2, or if you're on Social Security disability, these VITA sites are here to help clients keep their hard-earned money. So ideally, now that Dave heard all of this information, Dave should make an appointment with the VITA site. So this is what will happen if he does attend a VITA site. Here's how VITA works. So upon arrival, Dave is going to be greeted by somebody called an intake specialist, which is colloquially known as a greeter. The greeter will then verify that Dave has all of the documentation that he needs to be serviced. He has a valid ID for him, his wife. He has Social Security cards for himself, his wife, and his children. He has his income documentation, Social Security documentation, receipts from any bills that he's paying on his own that's not covered by his health insurance. So that is what the greeter does, make sure that he has all that information. Once that is verified, then Dave will sit down with the tax preparer. The tax preparer completes the return with Dave and reviews all of the documentation for accuracy and educates the client about the credit and deductions that Dave is eligible for. Now, once the return is complete, we have an additional volunteer called a quality reviewer. The quality reviewer is an experienced volunteer who provides a fresh pair of unbiased eyes on the return to ensure accuracy and to ensure that the client is satisfied with the preparation of the return. All volunteers are required to pass IRS certification exams every year they volunteer. Now, there are some benefits, obviously, of the VITA program, the main being that it's free, but the level of accuracy and communication that our volunteers provide is a level of comfort that our clients have versus self-filing on their own using TurboTax or something like that. So our sites typically have additional resources also to related to their internal programs, like we have ONIC as a site. So when you go to the ONIC sites, they have housing affordability resources. And when you come to some of our sites as well, we have resources like information on the Bank On program that we're going to talk about later. So now I've told you all the reasons why and how a VITA site benefits Dave. Well, we have Dave A here. Dave A decides that he doesn't trust VITA. He doesn't trust volunteers preparing his taxes. He's just going to go to his usual preparer because he feels like that's the easiest route. So again, Dave is eligible for additional credits due to his disability. All three of his children live with him. He provides 24/7 care for them. So he qualifies for the child tax credit. He qualifies for the earned income tax credit. He even gets medical deductions due to his disability. And after all of that is input, Dave's return is actually looking at $5,000. So while at this prep, while he goes to his friend in the tax prep office, he learns about something called a refund anticipation loan, which is also known as a RAL. So a RAL is a loan made by a lender that is based on the anticipated federal income tax refund. When the taxpayer receives an RAL, the bank lends the taxpayer the amount of the tax refund minus the cost of any interest or fees that may be accrued while you're waiting for the refund. So you also have to pay to access your money in advance. So it costs, not only is Dave paying the $400 to get his tax return prepared, he's also going to pay $800 out of his $5,000 expected return to receive the $5,000 now. So he pays $400 for prep fee, he pays $800 to receive the loan. When he actually leaves out of the office, he has $3,800. He does not have a bank account. And so he opts in to receive his refund via paper check. So the lender is going to give him $3,800 cash. He has to wait to receive that $5,000 check to repay the $3,800 back, plus all the interest and fees that occurred. So he opts in to receive the paper check. The paper check actually takes 6 to 8 weeks to receive. And then once he receives the check, he then has to cash the check as well. The additional check cashing fee with the current rate right now is 3%. So it costs him another $150. At the end of all things, Dave is going to lose $550. So what's important is here that we help the likes of Dave A with informing them of programs like VITA, is so that, you know, people like Dave do not lose their money. Although he was very desperate and needed that money right then and there, he actually lost money in the end. So VITA impacts Alice across our sites. Last year in 2021, we were able to bring in close to $3 million in refunds. We transmitted close to 2,000 returns, and we saved each of those families from having to pay the average cost of tax preparation fees of $225. People don't file because they just don't know how. There's a lack of trust. They don't know that they qualify to receive some of those refunds, and they just leave the money on the table. The IRS estimates that in 2018, close to 100,000 residents of Florida did not file their taxes and left over a potential $94 million in refunds that were not accessed. Now, I'm just going to put it back on you a little bit. If you could think about your first time filing taxes, maybe you could drop us a little chat about what your experience has been with filing taxes, or you can share with us later when we open it up for Q&A. But think about it. Have you ever had any issues filing your taxes? Who did you go to when you filed your tax, when you had questions? You know, it's pretty imperative that we understand that our clients are going through the same challenges and trying to figure out the correct course to take, just like we once were. I know personally, my first job was at Cold Stone Creamery. I was 15 years old. I made $10, $11 an hour, and my parents filed my taxes for me. My first refund was $68, and that was a lot for a 15-year-old girl, okay? VITA sites are here to basically educate and guide people with the difficult topic of taxes, and to take away any stress or headache when it comes to filing your taxes. So we were actually able to do that with Dave B and instill that confidence and provide accuracy during the tax season when Dave B came to a VITA site. Dave B went to a VITA site, not just any VITA site, he went to one of our VITA super sites. As mentioned earlier, Dave is eligible for all those credits. All three of his children live with him. He qualifies for the child taxpayer credit. And again, the accuracy of the VITA site was the same accuracy that he received at the other pay preparer. The same return is still $5,000. However, while at the super site, Dave learned about Bank On. Through Bank On, he was able to sign up for a new certified checking account, which allowed him to receive direct deposit for his refund. So once you receive direct deposit with your refund, you get your refund in less than 21 days, according to the IRS, which is ideally like a 2 to 3 week turnaround. So he gets direct deposit, he gets his refund earlier and sooner. And not only did he saved the $400 from having to file the prep fee, and he also saved the $800 from not having to take out that refund anticipation loan. So we have VITA super sites that are not only equipped to prepare taxes for free, but to also provide financial stability resources like Bank On, like our Bank On program, which provides affordable banking products to the community. At this time, I'd like to go ahead and pass it on to my colleague, Mia, so that she can talk to you a little bit more about Bank On. Thank you for joining us and walking through VITA with us and Dave.
Let me unmute myself. Thank you so much, Tian. Yes, as she mentioned, I am the Bank On manager. I know I've had the opportunity to talk to, I think, a couple of you on this call so far. So hopefully some of this information is a little bit familiar to you. But what I do is I am the manager of our Bank On program at the Heart of Florida United Way. And I also lead our corresponding coalition, which is the Bank On of Greater Orlando Coalition. So to begin, I wanted to go ahead and take a little quick group poll, get an idea as to what your experience was with banking. So I'm going to go ahead and launch this poll. And what I'd like to know is, how old were you when you first opened your first bank account? I know for me, I think I was 16. It was my first job. My dad, I told him that I wanted to get, paid, and I wanted to have my own bank account. So he took me to his bank, which at the time was BB&T. It's now Truist. But he went ahead and took me on over, and I signed up for my very first account. And he also started me off with a credit card. Believe it or not, I didn't want it. I thought credit cards are scary at the time, but he said, you know what, you need to establish credit. That's also another important thing to get started. He was aware of that because my older sister had needed some credit checks. So he said, that's a great idea for you. Go ahead and get started now. And I'm very appreciative that he did that. It looks like, judging by our poll, that most everybody here, I got 12 out of 12, it looks like, that were able to respond, did sign up also around the same age as me, between 15 and 20. So that more or less, I think, does reinforce the fact that a lot of people that are starting out are very young. They are very new to the banking world or to the financial world as it stands. So thank you so much. I just wanted to kind of see what everybody's experience was. So I'm going to go ahead and move on from that. And I'll go ahead and share the results there so you guys can see as well. So moving on. So in terms of having a bank account, again, I wanted to highlight why it's important. First of all, so I'd like to do a thought experiment with you all and have you just imagine what it would be like to live, to pay your bills and do everything you do normally without a bank account for 1 month. Just think about how that would look for you. You would have to be having or using probably a lot more cash in your wallet, which means that it's not nearly as secure as it normally would be in terms of access to your money. You have a lot more chance to lose that money, to lose your wallet, to get it stuck in some clothing, wash it, drop it, whatever that looks like. There's a very big lack of security there. It's not like your debit card where you lose it, you can order it and get a new one in the mail a few days later. Also consider the fact that you're going to have to be paying a lot more in fees because you're going to have to be using either money orders or checks to deposit and to transfer and get that cash back. So if you're depositing your paycheck, that's a fee that you're going to have to pay. When you get paid, for me, it's twice a month. That means that according to our check cashing fee chart, that means a payroll check at 4.5%. That's almost 5% of my paycheck that I'm having to pay twice per month. That's a good chunk. And then on top of that, you've got the time suck, right? Your time is taken because you're having to go to these check cashers or alternative financial service providers. You're also having to take the time to go back and forth, have your check, get your cash, have all of the intermediate things that you might be doing throughout your day. In the meantime, it adds a lot of additional time in the car, time traveling, time without spending that with your friends and family. So it's a big thing that makes a huge difference for people. So moving on to our next slide and sort of what this looks like for people who are not banked at all. So just to highlight a couple of the features that we probably do use a lot, but we don't think about it. And people that don't because they're not able to use these features by being unbanked. So a couple of things I just wanted to highlight here are the fact that you'll notice from this chart that money orders, check cashing, and the bill payment services. That's going to include bill payment services like MoneyGram or Western Union when you pay your bills outside of your financial institution. So you can see that from this chart, this is way higher, like 10 times or more higher for people that are unbanked versus banked. You can see particularly from that kind of brownish line at the bottom that people that use a combination of any of these three, money orders, check cashing, or bill payment services, those are way higher, 56%. More than half of people are having to use or do use a combination of these services versus the people that are banked. One other thing I'd like to highlight on this chart specifically is you'll notice that P2P payment service number is a lot, that 32.3 for the banked. It's a much higher number than it is for the unbanked. What that is referring to is the P2P is peer-to-peer payment services. These are going to be things like Cash App, Venmo, Zelle. Peer-to-peer is when you can transfer money easily, usually between friends and family. So you can see that just by being banked, people are sending and able to engage in those payment and transfer services much higher rate than they were if they are unbanked. So a couple of, like I said, highlighted factors there. So what does this look like here for us in our area? Well, in Florida State, we have about 3.7 completely unbanked households. So what this means specifically is that these households have no one with an account at a financial institution. That means they do not have an account at a credit union or a bank, and they are having to rely completely on alternative financial services. For those that are what we would say in the unbanked category, as you can see, about 17.9% of households fall into that category. That means that they might have one person in the household, at least one person in the household that is banked or that does have a bank account, but they're still using a lot of those alternative financial services. They're still relying, for whatever reason, they're still using those other services. So that's what it looks like here in Florida State. For our particular area here in Central Florida, ours looks a little bit different. So this is the breakdown of our MSA, or our Metropolitan Statistical Area. And what this refers to is, like I said, the 1.5% in our area. This is in Sanford, Kissimmee, and Orlando in our MSA. 1.5 doesn't seem like a lot. I know that looking at this, you're like, oh, this is probably nothing. This is great. But one thing I want to bring your attention to is the fact that 1.5% of households in our MSA equals thousands upon thousands of households. This is, as Tian mentioned, millions of dollars that is being left on the table by people that are not banked or not properly banked. And you can see we actually had this number go down a little bit from our last report, which is great. We saw it go from 3.5 to 1.5. So we know we're doing great work in this area. But then we realized that the issue is not in any way, shape, or form being completely solved, because we have another 15.8 households that are underbanked. So again, these are people that are still paying a lot of fees. They are potentially not nearly as secure with their money and probably thus not able to save as easily. And they are also taking that extra time to go to and from and pay and all of these additional things that they don't need. And that would make a whole lot of just a much easier for them if they were able to have these access to these additional features. So in terms of our Central Florida numbers and what that looks like, we'll go on to the next slide, please. Thank you so much. So what do we do with Bank On, and how does this all relate? We've noticed that there's a problem. We see that there are unbanked and underbanked households. So what we do with Bank On is the goal of this initiative is threefold. We provide education on what these accounts are, where you can find them, what a Bank On certified account is, not only just a bank account or a credit union checking account, but a Bank On certified account. Providing guidance on where people can find those accounts, what they are, where they can be found, and even assistance if they need help signing up themselves. And then we also want to work to always increase the number of Bank On certified accounts that are offered in our community and in our state. We have a lot of products right now on the market, which is amazing, but we do want to continue to add more and additional features and make it competitive. So on that note, we'll move right along. What does that mean? What is a certified Bank On account? Well, a Bank On certified account follows the Bank On national account standards. So what I mean by that is that these are specific banking accounts that are checking accounts that have everything that you would assume with a normal checking account, where you get your free debit card, you get access to, withdrawals and deposits, everything with that. You can sign up for direct deposit. And it works the same way as any other checking account, with a couple of key differences. So some of those things include the fact that it is completely safe from what we would call surprise fees or hidden fees. Those include overdraft, non-sufficient funds, account activation, closure, dormancy, inactivity, and low balance fees. So none of those are allowed on these accounts, which means that people are not going to be penalized for not having money in their accounts. There's also a very easy entry, very accessible for people with a maximum amount of $25 that a bank or credit union can charge for that opening minimum deposit. A lot of times it is zero for a lot of the banks on our list, banks and credit unions, which is great. So you don't even need anything to get started. There's also an affordable monthly fee. So these are meant to be accessed and easily affordable, which is either a no cost or a low cost. The standards say that the fee cannot be any more than $5 unless it can be waived. And if it can be waived, there can be 2 ways where they have to allow at least 2 ways for that bank or credit union to waive that fee, which means that in turn, it would be completely free. So these accounts, again, most of the time when you're signing up for those waiving opportunities, it's either just signing up for direct deposit, using your debit card, or using bill pay service through your financial provider. So very easy things that people don't have to go very out of their way in order to access this. And like I said, that does make it a free account. So there's also, last but not least, some functional options as well on there. Oh, you want to go back for me one more? So sorry. Just wanted to mention at the bottom here, the fact that there is a bill pay option. So for some who have probably with your financial institution, if you're with a bigger bank, you've probably seen where you can log into your account and it'll say pay bills or pay your utility bills at somewhere on the page. That is a feature that most larger banks, especially now, are able to offer, to where you can connect, you enter in your information, but you can connect your utility provider to your account so that you can have those payments directly drafted out of your account with no additional fees. With any financial providers that are not at that point, they can't offer it online. They do still need to offer at least 4 free money orders or cashier's checks to any clients of this account so that they can pay their bills for free. So again, no fees, no high costs, easy accessibility is the goal of these accounts. So now you can move forward and we'll keep moving it along. So what we did with these options, like I mentioned, we have a lot of different accounts to choose from. This is a certain type of checking account, and thus any bank or credit union is able to apply for the certification. With that, we have about 35 different bank on certified accounts that are available here for Florida residents, which is great, but it's also a lot. It's a lot to choose from. We realize that there are a lot of different features and no one is going to go to the website and search through every single last one of these 35 accounts. So what we did was we created this handy little comparison chart on our website. And this is where we try to guide people to help them take that step. What we did was we looked through all of our bank on certified accounts. So we know that they have no fees. We know that they have that easy access. And we took all of those accounts that are available to be opened online and we put them in this chart. That's 27 different accounts. And you can see at a glance that some of them have a physical location in Greater Orlando. Some of them offer, like I mentioned earlier, that no minimum deposit feature. And others offer additional benefits, as you can see, like getting paid early, having access to Zelle, that free money transfer service. There are even a handful of accounts that offer interest or cash back on that checking account. So there's just a ton of great benefits. We want to make sure that as many people know about this as possible, especially if they are currently unbanked and don't have any type of account to get set up with. So this is just, again, what we use as our tool to use to help guide people to the right account so that they can make that educated decision for themselves. And then moving right along to our next slide here. We do this, just to wrap up our section, we do this in 2 ways. So like I mentioned, when I started, I am the leader of both our program and our Bank On Coalition. So we have our Bank On program here at Heart of Florida works directly with our internal departments and connections, such as TN with our VITA program, to kind of enhance that access and share, make those connections and those integrations as much as we can, so that we're able to, essentially work smarter, not harder, right? We want to share as much as we can that's applicable. And in this case, we see a direct line between, or direct connection, I should say, between people who are filing their taxes, getting back that lump sum refund, and also are not banked or are choosing to receive, for whatever reason, they're choosing to receive that refund through a paper check or through a pay card. And we know that ultimately, especially short-term and long-term, that is just not going to be the best option for them. So letting them know about this resource is definitely one of the main goals. We also do this with our coalition by working together through a lot of community partners. This is almost 100 people, almost 100 members in our coalition now, so it's pretty big. But we've got about half of those are financial institutions that we work with. And then the other half are nonprofit resource providers, community development financial institutions, or CDFIs, and other just independent providers that what in the same space. They want to provide that financial empowerment. So we're going to bring this back to Dave and see what kind of a difference this could make for Dave, because we're just talking about him having a bank account. When Tian went through, she mentioned how he didn't have a bank account in his scenario. So if that's the case, if he doesn't have any type of bank account, granted, not a bank on certified account, but just a bank account, that means he's going to have to rely on either getting that check cashed or check cut for him or a prepaid card when he goes to get his refund. He's going to have to pay all those associated fees, especially if he has that prepaid card, because when you check your balance, when you add money, when you do anything additional, that's other fees. That's more fees that people are having to pay. There's also that waiting time that Tian mentioned of 6 to 8 weeks. So he's going to be waiting probably 2-3 months before he gets that money. He's going to have to pay that check cashing fee if he decided to go for the check. And he has absolutely no long-term benefits. He's going to have that money, it's going to be gone, and that's it. Whereas if we move forward into the next slide, we can see the banking benefits if he was banked. If he is just banked, again, banked and not necessarily with a bank on certified account, but by just being banked, he's going to end up paying less fees. He's going to have access to better products, and he's going to have access to more financial education resources through his bank account or his financial institution, financial provider. We all know that more money for those basic things also allows, in turn, more money for reduced risks for his own health, himself and his family. He can afford insurance, and especially if he's on disability and he's got back problems anyway, that would be a huge deal for him. Access to preventative health care, huge for low-income families, huge. Saving and investing for education or assets that could grow. He could buy a house or open a small business. And they, like I mentioned earlier, can save for those unexpected expenses or emergencies. People that were able to be banked after going through financial counseling, who were previously not, ended up being able to be 8 times more likely to have a savings fund for those emergencies. 8 times just more likely to have opportunity for a savings. So again, just by being banked, it is a huge difference. But then we also want to draw the added attention to our bank on certified accounts. So the way that we're doing this actively and the way that you can get involved in that is through our program integration with our super sites. So as Tian mentioned earlier, we are going to have 2 super sites that we're offering this year. We're really excited about this one. We'll be on Valencia College, and we'll also be at Seminole State just in March and in April, as you can see. And what we're going to have here during these dates is volunteers that are going to be on site that can help people enroll and sign up for a new bank account if that's what they're looking for. If there's anybody there that happens to still be at that stage of I'm looking for a paper check or a pay card, we want to make sure that at that point we can talk to them and let them know about this great option to be able to sign up and enroll direct deposit. So I'm going to stop there. If anybody does have any questions, I know that was a lot of information, please, please, please put them in the chat. I would love to address those, either for Bank On or if you have any questions around VITA. We definitely want the opportunity to talk through some of those and what you're hearing from your constituents. So I'm going to pass it back over to Daniel, our Public Policy and Advocacy Director, and you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mia. Thank you, Tian. Really glad to have everybody here. I think I bring this back to one quote. Nothing is certain but death and taxes by Benjamin Franklin. I know it's a little bit of an oldie, but a goodie. I hope everybody learned a lot about some of the access to the programs that we offer here, like VITA. I know as a young man back in college, I made a lot of mistakes for not having access to education around how to file my taxes properly. And, you know, the tax man's still coming for me sometimes for that. But unfortunately, that's something you learn along the way. And I wish I knew about VITA. So I hope today some of the takeaways that you guys got out of this was how to access our VITA program, what our VITA program is, that you guys learned that even though we don't think about banking, because maybe we're in a position where we've always, like Mia said, most of us got our bank account at 15, maybe 17, 18, 19, 20. We learned the value of having a bank account early on, but not everybody's been that lucky. So we have this program of bank accounts for people to take advantage of that, to learn how to utilize their banking services. And the big thing we want to ask from everybody is help us find our next Dave. Help us communicate to the next Dave how to access these services, how to make sure that all of their hard-earned money comes back into their pockets. I think I speak for our organization. We're proud that we were able to bring $3 million, almost $3 million worth of tax money back into the pockets of many of our citizens, many of the residents in all 3 counties. And we want to keep finding those people. We want to make sure that those are the people that are coming and getting these services because they can use it, right? For somebody that's struggling, you know, an extra $500 goes a long way. And it's money that is their hard-earned money that should come back into their pocket. So I hope that this was very enlightening. I see a couple of questions here in the chat. Let me see. Roseanne, yes, we can try to schedule something for resources. I will definitely follow up. I'll follow up with all of your offices. We'll provide you with graphics and more details about some of these programs and how you guys can access it, and our further steps of doing anything else with our staff. Yes, we will be able to share some of our slides. We'll make sure we attach them as well. Any other final questions? Anybody else? Well, and I want to thank Senator Thompson, Representative Scamani, and Representative Bankson for being present at this event, as well as I want to thank all of your offices for being here. I really appreciate you guys taking the time today to learn about these programs. My contact information will be included in the follow-up email. If you guys have any other questions or anything else about our resources, feel free to contact me. I'll be more than happy to guide you and get you to the right person. Think of me as a traffic cop for United Way. I'll point you in the right direction and get you to the right person to get you all the information. And once again, thank you so much for being here with us. I hope you guys have all a great weekend, and we'll see you later.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.